Oh my goodness. Morning.
Hey guys.
Golly. So this is the 10 mile per gallon death trap.
Yeah.
Wow. This is awesome.
Feels good to get out.
Yeah, I'll bet, yeah. Can you hear anything right now? Are your ears ringing?
Oh, I was wearing these the entire way.
I bet you were. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Spyder Garage. We had a visitor today. Hey Matt.
Hey.
This is Matt Hunt. Matt Hunt is a friend we met on Power Tour a couple years ago, but we knew each other online and finally met on Power Tour. And then, as you guys saw in episode whatever it was, I'll put a little link to it up here above. Matt is the one that gave us a tour of where you go to school at IUPUI as part of the racing program there. Ever since that day, we just were incredibly impressed with your knowledge and your skills. And Matt's out here to help us today. We got a bunch of stuff on a list we're going to try to get done. Our goal is to try to get to Rocky Mountain Race Week in about 60 days, and the car is nowhere near ready. We got a lot of wiring to button up on the LS. That's something that Matt is pretty good at. We got some gauges that we might get to, not sure yet. And if not, I'll edit this part out. And yeah, let's get started. Okay, nerd glasses on here. It's because I got to read this. This is the list. You haven't seen this yet, Matt. It's pretty long. 3 pages, as a matter of fact, but broken down by category. Engine cleanup, wiring, wire the alternator, reinstall power steering pump, fit, cut, install cold air intake, proportioning valve, IAT sensor install, reinstall the belt, fans. We got electric fans to install, relay kit, new spark plug wire, steering knuckles, double D shaft and stock, so we don't actually have that yet. Thermostat housing, the radiator hoses, fab up something for the steam tube. O2 sensors, won't do that yet. That's just the engine. What'd you say? Easy? I turned off the camera, he's like, easy. I like his confidence. Yeah. That's why you're here, Matt. All right, let's get started. All right, Nathaniel and I are going to tackle a problem where the rotor and the caliper from our power stop brake kit didn't quite center correctly. So we're going to do a little bit of grinding on the caliper, but we're going to measure it with a micrometer first. Take off a little bit there, a little bit there. It's only like maybe like a 1/16 of an inch, so that it doesn't rub up against parts it shouldn't be rubbing up against. All right, so Nathaniel just took off the powder coating.
Wow, that's already.
Was it at 24 before? We're thinking maybe the thickness of the powder coating might have been part of our problem, so we're just kind of
24.
Taking it down. Okay, what's it at?
24 and a half. Or 23 and a half.
Sorry. Okay, yeah. Well, you want it down at least half more, so just, and I can see you just barely took off the powder coating. There's still a little bit of a dusting of bread there, so bring it down just a little bit more and you might be okay, bud.
I think we're good now.
You think so?
Yeah. It's not in either one.
Can I see it okay? Maybe the camera will.
The flashlight on your side, Matt, can get that over to me.
That looks pretty centered. Nice, dude.
Like,
Perfect. That is a much better solution than putting janky washers on there.
yeah.
Kind of a shame that we even thought of that, honestly. It was just originally it was just to mock it up to see if that would actually do the trick. Yeah, I forgot about the thickness of the powder coating. So grind it back a little bit and we're fine.
Yep.
Oh, thank goodness. Yeah. How's it going over here?
Good. Almost done making the alternator wire to the starter.
Okay.
Yeah, just need those terminals, and then I had to take the starter out just because of how close it was to the manifold, but
Oh, right, yeah. It was a little tight down there.
we go right back in and then cross it off the list.
Hey, cross the first thing off. I love it. All right, I'm gonna see how this side fits.
If I can get the bolts going in.
Oh, yeah.
They got really old Loctite on them. They just don't.
Old Loctite, and plus you're going through some of that powder coating. So you're kind of threading them right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll come back when it's on there. We'll check the fitment.
Yep.
All right, so this thing is not fitting. Nathaniel mocked it up here a little bit ago and took it off because it wouldn't even fit, but I asked him to put it back on here again so I could take a look at it. This is the same caliper that wouldn't fit on the other side and made us assume that we had to grind down each caliper to make them fit. What we discovered was he accidentally put on the other caliper that he hadn't even ground on yet, and it fit perfectly.
Yeah.
He then takes the one that he's ground on that didn't fit on the other side, puts it over here, and it doesn't line up either.
Nope.
So obviously that points to something with this caliper or this bracket.
Yeah, I can't get that one.
So it's hitting on the back.
Yeah, I can't even. I can just barely slide it over.
Okay, but center-wise, whoops, sorry, filming the back of your head there. Can you hold it and I'll go take a look?
Sure.
Okay. Well, it's rubbing, yeah, on the back there, just like before.
Yeah.
But that's, the constant has been just that caliper.
Right.
Yeah, it's not the spindles. The only thing that doesn't fit is that caliper. So I wonder if that caliper got dropped and bent maybe.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could take and put the calipers on, not calipers. Well, I guess the caliper's on the caliper. That sounds kind of weird to say. Anyway, measure each caliper, and I wonder if the space in between has been bent.
Yeah, I'm gonna take
Maybe it
that
got
one off.
dropped or something in the packaging.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. All right, so we did a little mocking up on both sides. Came to the conclusion that we just need to do a little more grinding, even on this side just a little bit, because it's not quite centered yet. Matt took a look at it as well. I think we all agreed that that's best. It's just maybe just a dusting with the flap wheel, get some burrs off, maybe take some of the paint off, take some of the powder coating off, and that's going to be the 16th that we need to kind of get this thing where it needs, because it's this little tab right here is rubbing almost right up against the rotor itself. Like you can barely stick a piece of paper in there. And this thing will flex under hard braking, so we don't want that metal to hit the rotor itself. So we're trying to just gap it out just a little bit more.
Yep.
And that's what we're about to do. All right, Dad stopped by. Was just hanging out for the day. That's my dad. Say hi, Dad. He didn't want to be in this, but I got to show this. I can't not show you guys what he did for me here. Check out what Dad made for me. Ellie Mae was my dog for almost 15 years, and she's passed away here recently. And she's buried out back, and Dad made a post gravestone for her. Check out even the little ear that hangs off there. And that's when she was born, April 2nd of 2006. So, well, you can see how old she was right there. So, that's amazing. Thank you, Dad. Appreciate that very much. Just had to show that off, guys. Cross element are off the list.
Yep.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. All right, we got it on there. Rotate that thing around so we can hear it. It's rubbing the brake pad just a little bit, but I don't think that's excessive. And I think honestly, it'll work itself out after a few miles anyway, so.
Hopefully.
Yeah, it's pretty normal though. But at least the rotor itself is not perfectly centered, but it's close enough. Over here, Matt's doing some math. I just noticed that. So we got a new pulley for our power steering pump. And you want a straight edge? I can give you something like that. Hang on.
Yeah.
All right, we got a straight edge now. So as I was saying, we got a new pulley for our power steering pump that was given to us by our friend Rusty. The original pump pulley was plastic and broken in a few spots, and he thought it might be better to give us one that was the same diameter that was metal. However, it may not line up. The inside depth, which is what Matt's measuring right now, may not allow us to use this, so that's what we're checking out.
Actually, the inside's closer than I thought it was going to be.
Really?
Yeah, it's only off by like 50 thou.
So we can adjust that with just by how far we actually put it on the shaft.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I wish I could have got that on camera, actually.
What?
So I was just explaining to Nathaniel that there's some custom fab work he's got to do down here on these brakes. So again, these brakes were not meant for this car. These braided hoses were not meant for this car either. And there is a keyway right there. And there is a keyway on the bracket. Well, the way this lines up, you've actually got to take a file and file a keyway down here. I think at about the 7 o'clock position, if I recall. I got to go check my notes. But it will not line up with that keyway. So you got to file a keyway to lock this thing into to hold it in place. And when I was telling Nathaniel that, he grimaced pretty big. Yeah, he didn't realize that. And I hadn't told him yet, so.
Yep.
Custom fab work, buddy. All right. So we got a problem here. This rotor doesn't slide on all the way. So I'm trying to get an idea back here. What's stopping it? I don't know if it's the backing plate or what. Something is definitely keeping this from sliding all the way on. Well, there's a dust cover. It's almost up against that. Yeah, I think the dust cover.
I think it might be on it, because when you just did that, I saw it move.
The dust cover itself?
Yeah, up here.
Yeah, up here it's touching it.
Yeah.
I don't think this dust cover works.
Yeah.
Like, it's got to come off. Ah, crap, it means you got to pull the axles out. All right, let's try that. Same spot?
Yeah, because it's hard to get. I have to really pull it off.
So it's rubbing at the bottom down there.
It's rubbing on this side, I think.
On that little tab right there.
I think I'm on probably on both.
And that
What
one too?
it feels like.
What the
Yeah.
heck? Have we taken the grinder on the inside of the spindle at all?
I have not done any kind of grinding on the side.
Okay.
That's probably why I'm back even on it.
Yeah. So you didn't see it off camera, but
Put this on, I can't.
yeah, it won't even spin. It's just rubbing. So you got to make her fit. Grind away. All right. Meanwhile, over here, Matt is underneath the car, getting ready to take off the rear axle or rear cover. Luckily, there's no fluid in it right now, but yeah, we're gonna have to pull these axles out. Pull the C-clip, pull the axles out, and take these dust covers off the backing plates, and then see if we can put our rotors back on. If that doesn't work, then I don't know what we're gonna do yet. This was a rear end that was built by the guy I bought the car from, and never really had messed with it much. I just assumed everything was good until we went to go do final fitment, and we realized that it doesn't fit. Nathaniel's getting serious now. Get the grinding disc out. Look at that. Just make sure it comes down evenly.
Yeah.
So what's going on is our 8mm bolt here for the pin is getting rounded off, and every socket or boxed in wrench or opening wrench I've got is just slipping on it right now, and we're trying to be very gingerly with it so we don't ruin it. And then right before I started to explain this, Nathaniel goes, "Vice grips? Might have to. Might just have to." There we go. There we go.
All right.
Got it. All right, pull that bad boy out. Sweetness. Actually, now I can count the splines too, because we never did know if these were 26 or 28 spline. So take those 4 bolts off. Oh,
This
dang.
has to come off.
Yeah, we could still run emergency brakes without the dust plate, but yeah, I just was for a second there. I've never had rear discs before, so I don't know what I'm looking at here. I'm like, oh, this is all new to me. This is not drum. But yeah, this dust cover will come off and everything else will still work just fine. They're not dependent on one another. It's just there, and this ring right here is what appears to be in the way. It's backing up against that right there. In fact, you can see the paint chipped off. I wonder if it's from that. I don't know. All right, let's get it off. All right, status update. These ears that stick out here for the caliper mount rub the inside of this drum, or rotor, excuse me. The fix for that, I'd forgotten about, I just called a friend of mine on the phone, is that you got to put an 1/8 of an inch spacer, a hub-centric spacer, on this before you mount the rotor. Because an S10, this is an S10 26 spline axle, is an 1/8 of an inch shorter than an H-body axle. So while it slides in and works well, it does cause that rubbing issue. So I got to get some spacers on order. I just realized that the studs I ordered were 14mm, not 12mm, so I got to get those fixed as well. So we're going to leave this for another day. Moving on. And while I was messing around with the rear end there, Nathaniel took it upon himself to come over here and start installing the fans. Are you doing them like at an angle from one another?
No.
Oh, okay, okay. I didn't know.
It's
Sorry. It just slid. All right. I mean, if it works, it's fine. So he's getting ready to get these mounted, and then we'll start cutting a hole in the middle of our shroud there so these fit. Okay, Matt, new tasking, right?
Absolutely.
All right, we're moving on to this mess inside of the car. There's a few hidden sins in here that we've not said much about, and that is that we've hot wired ignition power to the ECU, and we've also hot wired the pump. We didn't have, I always forget this, Matt, we didn't have switched cranking power to power the PCM here, and that has to come from the steering column. We're pretty sure that's about the only place on this old car that we can really grab it from. So to do that, as we were discussing off camera, we're going to pull that entire dash out. There's a couple reasons for it. One is we got a new set of gauges that require us pretty much gutting the dash anyway. We're not going to put a regular head unit radio in there. We're going to put gauges in that spot as well, so that kind of requires us getting it out, access to do that. Plus, it just gives us access to all the wiring that we need. We got to pull the steering column down to get the banjo connector off the top of it. All that's in the way, so right now we're going to start disassembling the entire dash to get to the wiring from the original car that connects to our new PCM and this PSI conversion, wonderful PSI conversion harness we have here. So here we go. Okay, dashboard is out. We had so much to rewire and redo and figure out, for that matter, that it was just easier to gain access to it all, because half the dashboard had to be gutted anyway, right?
Yeah.
And while we're gutting the dashboard, let's just take it out, get access to all the wires we need. We don't have to hang upside down. I'm no spring chicken anymore. So this twisting like a pretzel underneath the dash is just not for me anymore. So anyway, yeah, look at that glorious mess. That's what we got to work with. But you can figure it out, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Let me bring you up to date really quick. We stopped and we had some pizza. In the meantime, while I was running out to get pizza, Matt has started, actually he's finished it. I've got a wiring harness from Ron Francis Wiring, thank you, couldn't remember the name. It's kind of a fuse panel actually with a couple relays for the fans. It ran it through the firewall there, ran it up here. We got power, we got the fan wires there. There's a sensor wire that we'll wire up later because we'll have to fab something up to put that sensor in. And Nathaniel.
It's outside now, sorry.
Oh, you just painted it?
Yeah.
No. Let's go take a look.
Sure.
So Nathaniel, you guys get to see our back shed here. He just gave us a fresh coat of paint, but here is the fan shroud. He cut the holes out, drilled them out, and gave it a fresh coat of paint pretty soon.
Yep.
We'll go in there and mount the fans for the final time. Get that installed in the car.
Yeah.
We finally have the, here I go again, the switched cranking power. Why can I not? I'm going to write it down on the board so I don't forget. But anyway, we found where it was. I had to look up the wiring harness for the car. We found the right wires that came off the steering column. And now we're wiring them up permanently so that we don't have to pull a relay to turn this car off. We can actually use the keys to turn it on and off. Last thing I want to try to do, maybe tonight, since we're still messing with wiring, is that we got some temporary wiring back here for the fuel pump that we did just for the burnout a few months ago, and I think we need to get that fixed.
Yeah.
That would be good. That's it. We're making great progress. It doesn't look like a lot, but it just makes you feel so much better when you know that wiring is done for the final time, you know? Ugh, look at that mess.
Wake me up, I'm getting tired of sleeping. Think I've had enough. I've been gone, but haven't done much healing. It's pretty clear to me. Kinda strange how I can take a beating from my better self. It's like no one else even really scratches the surface. Cause nobody gets me. I'm looking for faith, looking for love in every direction. I'm looking for someone to show me the way when my map is torn up. A light when my torch is blown out. Let me escape from my hideaway. I give up all of my little addictions, but I'm still stuck with some tough decisions. Yeah, now I'm up against.
All right, so we mocked this thing up in the car. What happened, bud?
It hit the power steering pump. Not power steering pump, but just this
The power steering box itself.
the box.
And I think,
box.
wasn't it this big thing right here?
Yeah, I marked it. Don't worry.
We don't need that. You can actually kind of roto-zip that off and shave it a little bit, because that's for the plastic mounts that are optional to buy for this.
Yeah.
But since it's bolted, you don't need those.
Yep.
Yeah, shave that off and see if it works.
Yeah, I think it should.
Okay. So what he hit was the power steering box right here. This thing's massive because it's the larger power steering gear, and it hits just right there. So 5 seconds too late. You got it ground down?
Yep.
Okay.
It's gone.
Yep. And
Not hitting anymore.
not hitting?
Nope.
Sweetness. Oh yeah, look at that clearance. That's like a 1/4 inch.
Yeah. I can't even get my finger in
more,
there.
yeah.
Can't even get my finger in there.
Well, that's why we had to go with 2 10-inch fans rather than one large 16-inch fan, because there was just no clearance for that pilot bearing on that water pump. Mm-hmm. What is up with my hair? I've been walking around like this the whole time. Hey, end of the night, guys. It's a heck of a way to start. But we got a lot done. We ran into some things that we weren't expecting, like always. That's what happens when you're putting brand new parts that don't belong on a Monza on a car that wasn't intended for. So we have some parts to order, but we still got a lot of other stuff done. That is the part of the car we're going to leave for later. We need a shim. We need the right size studs. Those are M14s. I need M12s. So suspension was kind of left on hold for the rear of the car here. We did manage to grind down, I guess, for lack of a better term, center that rotor out properly.
It does rub a little bit.
Yeah, that's normal. That's actually a normal rub. So that is good to go finally. He got that done on that side, and he got it done over here as well. So after he got it done, he decided to go ahead and grab the new lug nuts that we had and bolt up the rim. Now you are looking at this for the first time with 5 lug nuts with all the brakes in behind, and it is beautiful. Good job, bud. Inside, Matt, oh man, I'm so glad you're here, bud. Matt got a lot of wiring done for us here. That is the wiring for the dual fans that Nathaniel installed a little bit earlier. So this shroud that we made out of scrap metal over at Sean and Sarah's house at Suede Speed Shop now has the holes cut and the fans themselves actually mounted. We'll come back tomorrow and get all this wired up. The wiring for the alternator is now permanent and done. Moving on to the inside of the car. We have switched and cranking power. Yes, I remembered the term. And I know it looks like a mess in there, but those wires are actually now permanently run to the correct sources to the PCM over there. It's kind of sitting in the passenger area. Last thing to wire up right now was something I started but had to stop. The wires that come from the fuel pump up front here need to be completed, so we'll do that tomorrow as well. Then we started something that was fun. I'll show you what that is. So since we were doing a lot of wiring and using the expertise that Matt provides, we decided we try to wire these bad boys up. Check those babies out. They look good in there, but obviously the way that they connect to the car through all of these fittings that we got laid out here in the instructions, we think because we've got an early LS that, like this temp sensor here is an NPT connector that will go on the back of the passenger side of the head, but we don't have the brass adapter that actually goes in the head itself. We might have to drop the tank to maybe use this as the float level for the gauge, or if we test resistance on our GM pump that's in there right now, it might work. We'll check the specs on that tomorrow. But yeah, it comes with all the stuff to install the gauges, but there is some exceptions for early LSs apparently, and there's some adapters and other fittings that we may still need to fit that. So beyond that, we're going to gut this gauge area right here, and we're going to take the other two, where'd they go? Right here. The other two gauges, the oil pressure and the voltage gauge, and then install them here, kind of angled, pointing towards the driver. Use that area right there, and make this into a pretty wicked dash. So that is it for day one. We'll be back tomorrow. I got to teach Sunday school in the morning, but these guys are going to hang out, try to get some things done. I'll be back a few hours later. We'll see what we get done tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yep.
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 All right. Yep. See you tomorrow, guys. Hey, welcome back to day two. I've been gone for a few hours. Had to do some things, teaching a class at church this morning. But Matt, Nathaniel, sorry, I know I just made you dizzy because Nathaniel walked away. Stayed here and got a lot of stuff done this morning. And we had a little talk, kind of discussing what we think we can get done before Matt has to head back. There are some things that Nathaniel and I are pretty confident about doing. that you two got started while I was gone. And now we're talking about maybe some of the things that I'm not that confident on, which is some of the newer gauges, the Stewart Warner gauges that are over there. Never wired up real gauges before, the ones that actually have electronic tie-ins to the LS and different sensors and things that, like the old small block we had, didn't use. So I'm going to utilize Matt for as long as we have him here to kind of figure some of that out, clean up the wiring, no pressure. And while the dash is up, because I love clean wiring. So we want to get all the permanent wiring done, get it cleaned up, buttoned up, and then we'll put the dash back in. So the PSI conversion harness, the Ron Francis wiring fuse panel relay kit for the dual fans, the extra connections for all the Stewart Warner gauges, all of that we're going to try to get buttoned up in the next few hours. So here we go.
Laughed at the mall 'cause your mama forgot. I know it hurts. Rolling by the cool kids on the first day of school. I know it hurts so bad. Let it go, let it go. You'll be better off without our brakes. We don't care if you know, we will never let you go. Can't take any more, I'm under control. We won't fight all the time, we'll punch you if you're feeling fine. Yeah, it will go on as long as you want. Laughed at when your girlfriend pulled down your pants. I know it hurts. Kicked out on the first day of your new job. I know it hurts so bad. Let it go, let it go. You'll be better off without our brakes. Let it go, let it go. You'll be better off without our brakes. We don't care if you know, we will never let you go. Can't take any more, I'm under control. We won't fight all the time, we'll punch you if you're feeling fine. It will go on as long as they want. We don't care if you know, we will never let you go. Can't take any more, I'm under control. We won't fight all the time, we'll punch you if you're feeling fine. It will go on as long as they want.
Golly, look at that. This is the first time we're all seeing this right now.
So I drew a little diagram here for when the gauge panel and the dash are like completely able to bolt together with those two little auxiliary gauges. And the same thing for the black. The black's going to come in from like the primary gauge cluster. Black comes from both of these gauges, and then you'll connect that to some chassis grounder.
Yeah.
Let's see, I think that should be everything to get the gauges up and going after the sensors are put in the motor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still missing the ability to mount some of those sensors.
Yeah.
The temp sensor on the back of the head, we need an adapter for.
I'll put that one in that little tube that I was going to make.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Yeah, we're going to do that. And that's also where the steam tube bung is going to probably go to as well.
Yeah.
So you can put it directly in that tube.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, Matt's going to... Yeah, let me explain this. Matt has the ability to take a pretty good size thick wall piece of aluminum, turn it down on one end. I'm going to have two 90-degree rubber radiator hoses coming out, connected by this piece of aluminum that Matt's going to go back to his shop and actually turn one end of it down for the smaller diameter, leave the other end the outside diameter that fits the larger hose. And in the middle of that hose, he's going to somehow outfit it so that we can mount the temp sensor for the gauges as well as a bung for a nipple to mount the hose that comes off the steam tube off the front of the LS. Okay, that wraps up our time with Matt, and he's got to head back. He's got drag radials on his car. And we got like a 2-hour window that's dry that he can drive home in. It's about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes back to your house. So you came a long way to get here. I really appreciate it, Matt.
Yeah.
Not only that, Matt's still trying to graduate in a couple weeks, and he's got a big paper to get done tonight. I don't know how you even found time to come out here. So we're so thankful you came by.
Yeah.
Really, really appreciate it. There are things that we probably would have eventually figured out, but it would have taken 3 or 4 times as long. Matt just comes in and goes, yeah, I've done that 8 or 9, 10 times. This goes here, that goes there, this wire's up here. So very grateful that you were able to come in with that knowledge and help us out. Nathaniel, you're a lucky dude to have friends that they're so willing to come by and help you like this, bud.
Yeah, anytime.
This is just the car family at its best, guys. It really is. And the friendships. We can't wait to get together again, maybe on Power Tour or PRI at the very least, because that's our hometown. It's in Indianapolis. And maybe Rocky Mountain Race Week.
Maybe.
Yeah, show up and hopefully you can get in. We're both. He's sort of on the wait list. We're definitely on the wait list. In fact, from what I hear, we're pretty high on the wait list. So fingers crossed. Probably by the time this thing's edited, the Rocky Mountain Race Week's already over. Anyway, you got to go. I appreciate it. This has been immensely helpful. So thank you, Matt.
Of course.
All right. Once again, if you guys like what you're watching, hit that like button. We really, really appreciate it. And if you would just please consider subscribing. I don't really ask that too many times. It's a weird thing to ask, isn't it, Nathaniel? Right? He's over here laughing. We'll see you guys again next time. Take care. I've been gone for a little few. Blah, 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 blah.